Many South Africans will remember this day 26 years ago when one of the foremost leaders of the SACP was gunned down. The laying of the wreath continues from officials attending here. There will be representatives from the Alliance. As I've said, from the ANC side is the Secretary General, Ace Magashule, who we know has been in the news recently. Many people actually attribute the assassination of Chris Hani to April 27, basically saying it was forced by that occasion, as we see one of his daughters there also laying the wreath. That event is described as having changed the politics, or rather the dynamics at the time, because the negotiations were underway, and of course different interest groups playing themselves out. And when Chris Hani, who was very popular, was killed, and then the nation basically took note, and certain things really had to be done. Perhaps that's when many saw the leadership of the late President Nelson Mandela coming out, calming the nation down, given that there was so much anger on the ground, and the chances of a civil war almost looked inevitable. As we see Minister Nathi Mthethwa there also laying his wreath. The SACP in Gauteng as well. And of course, our host here in Ekhuruleni, the mayor of Ekhuruleni, Mzwandile Masina, is also laying his wreath.
Have all them here, but through the chief whip of council, the wreath is laid on their behalf. Mrs. Landela was Secretary General.
Chris Hani, at the time of his assassination, was the General Secretary of the SACP and was extremely popular. In fact, many people are saying his popularity at the time was only second to that of former President Nelson Mandela. This is the man who was always known to be amongst the people. We see the Secretary General of the ANC now, Ace Magashule, also laying his wreath. Later on today, he is one of those people who will be delivering the address and the messages of support. Dr. Blayton Mande is laying his wreath as well. We also expect him to speak, as will Kepi Mapatswe, the chairperson of the MKMVA. The Labour Federation, COSATU, is represented here as well. So they are people who would also give a message of support. So basically the program would give the alliance partners speaking time, and then after that, then government would speak, and Minister Nathi Mthethwa who is representing President Cyril Ramaphosa, will speak on behalf of government.
Our former executive mayor.
Well, every year, this time, people flock to this cemetery to remember their hero. Well, he once was the mayor here, the deputy finance minister, Mondli Kongubele. So he's just laid his wreath, and so many times he presided over this occasion as the mayor of Ekhuruleni. When Mzwandile Masina took over, he took over from Mr. Mondli Kongubele, who is currently the deputy minister of finance.
Comrade Solima Baila, the first deputy general secretary of the SACP.
This event really being associated with the SACP, it's natural that the SACP would play a very prominent role. As you see, the first general secretary there, Solima Paile, also laying his wreath. It looks like we are edging closer towards concluding that part of the wreath laying, and then from here we'll now go to the formal program where the speakers will start delivering their messages. This being the election year, you can expect a number of messages really touching on the messages about the election, and perhaps even urging many of the people attending here to vote for the governing party, because this is an alliance gathering in the main. Chris Hani brought so many hope to many South Africans, because at all times he was seen as one of those who really understood the plight of ordinary people and the poor. It's absolutely no surprise that many of the people could relate to him, and the kinds of statements he made were quite clear. He actually warned about the current situation that the country is finding itself in. He was warning about the dangers of incumbency, saying once the party ascended into power, so it needed to be careful about behaving exactly the same way as the oppressor. So we will now move to a second part of the program, where we will then have the speeches. The wreath-laying ceremony is now concluded, so we'll then be able to join our viewers and continue to update them as the program resumes.
Mzwai Mbeche, they're coming to us from Dogma.
So it looks like you have
Sihleleni kahle no promotion siyaqala manje. Thank you very much, Bayadanki. Siyabulela. Now we are doing part 2 of our program. Let me take this opportunity and welcome everybody present here today to actually come and be part of this important gathering. Let me acknowledge the presence of the Hani family and friends led by our beloved sister, Medrano Hani, the Nkobi family represented here today, Honorable Executive Mayor of the host city, which is the city of Ekhuruleni, Councillor Mzwandile Masina. Let me also acknowledge the presence of various ministers who are here. Honorable Natim Tetwa, Minister of Arts and Culture, Honorable Blake Nzimande, Minister of Transport, who's also the General Secretary of the SACP, Honorable Tulas, Minister of Public Works, Tulas Nqesi, who's also the Deputy Chair of SACP, Honorable Senzeni Zogwana, Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, who's also the National Chairperson of the SACP, Honorable KB Mapatwe, Deputy Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, and also MKMVA President. Acting Premier of Gauteng Province, Honorable MEC Jacob Mamabulo, who is present here. Our former mayors of the city of Ekhuruleni, Tate Dumankosi, the Honorable Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, Mentombi Mehwe, Deputy Minister of Finance, Ntate Mondli Kungubele. Also present here is the Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Ace Khashule, also Ntate Jacob Kawe, who's the ANC Gauteng Provincial Secretary, and all structures of the ANC, the SACP represented here today by the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, the First Deputy General Secretary, Comrade Solima Paile, Comrade Chris Matlaku, Second General Secretary, the National Chairperson, and that Comrade Senzeni Zogwana. Also present here is COSATU, represented by Comrade Begin Jalinjali, General Secretary of COSATU, Comrade Solipetu, Deputy Secretary General of COSATU. Also, we have amongst us the delegation from Chris Hani District Municipality, represented by Councillor Wongama Gela, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Mtetumzi Jack, MMC Finance, Councillor Bonga Kyali, MMC Infrastructure, Councillor Noncedo September, MMC Health, Ms. Yolisa Sinyanya, Acting Municipal Manager, Mr. Begim Tembu, who's an official, Mr. Zamuko Lodladla, also an official, Mr. Mvuyisi Mtseke, also an official. Also, amongst us is the Executive Mayor of the OR Tambo District Municipality, Menko Sazana Meth, or Councillor Kosazana Meth. Also from Alfred Nzo District, we have the Mayor, Councillor Sikolile Mehlomakulu from Alfred Nzo District Municipality. We also have Mbizana, which municipality represented here by Mayor Councillor Daniswa Mafumbata, also Councillor Kwala. From Metsimahulu Municipality, we have Councillor Lindiwe Chongwe, Mayor of Metsimahulu Municipality, Councillor Zwelihle Njikane. Also, let me acknowledge members of the mayoral committee that are here today, Chief Whip of Council, Councillor Jongizizwe Dlabati, all political parties in council. I can see the leadership is here of the various caucuses, Honorable Chair of Chairs and all chairpersons of the Section 79 oversight committees, Honorable councillors of the City of Ekhuruleni, City Manager Dr. Imogen Mashazi, COO Mr. Joe Mujapilu, Senior Management present here, all officials present here today. And also let me acknowledge the chairperson of Ekhuruleni faith-based organization represented here by Pastor Kolanzo, the business community present, faith-based organizations present here, traditional healers that are here, other civil society organizations invited but have not submitted their names yet, members of the media consistently present here today, residents of the City of Ekhuruleni, distinguished guests. Allow me to say all protocol is observed. All protocol is observed. Good morning. Bahlali base-Ekhuruleni. We are gathered here today to celebrate the life and legacy of Comrade Thembisile Chris Hani, renowned for his extraordinary leadership qualities and relentless pursuit of freedom for all South Africans. The City of Ekhuruleni has actually scheduled month-long activities to celebrate the life of Comrade Chris Hani and ideals for which he stood. These ideals include the provision of decent housing, primary health care, and alleviation of extreme hunger. He was the General Secretary of the SACP from February 1990 until his assassination, which happened on this day, which is the 10th April 1993, outside his home in Don Park situated in Boksburg. The city conferred the freedom of the city to Comrade Chris Hani posthumously in November 2009 and declared April, the month in which he died, as the Chris Hani month. So based on that, we also want to make a quote as I welcome to the podium our Honorable Executive Mayor, who will come and make a welcome address. Comrade Chris says, what we need in South Africa is for egos to be suppressed in favor of peace. We need to create a new breed of South Africans who love their country and love everybody, irrespective of their color. Honorable Executive Mayor, please come to the podium and welcome the guests that are here today to grace this important occasion, which is hosted by the City of Ekhuruleni, a developmental city, a city alive with possibilities, the home of Erythropolis, connecting Ekhuruleni to South Africa to the African continent. Thank you.
Amandla. Amandla. Long live the undying spirit of Comrade Chris Hani, long live. Long live the undying spirit of Comrade Chris Hani, long live. Mandla. Forward to the victory of the African National Congress, forward. Forward to the victory of the ANC, forward. Amandla. Viva President Cyril Ramaphosa, viva. Viva President Cyril Ramaphosa, viva. Amandla. Thank you very much, Program Director, Alderman Patricia Kumalo. The Hanney family is led by my mother. I bought from Checkers, as she was telling me, Mamdi Mpohani, the Minister of Arts and Culture, Minister Natim Tetwa, the General Secretary of the party, Comrade Leighton Zimande, Minister Tulas Nglesi, Minister Senzeni Zokwane, the SG of the biggest organization in the country, the African National Congress, Comrade Ace Makashule, Deputy Ministers that are here, Deputy Minister Mapatswe, Deputy Minister Mondli Kungubele, who's also the former mayor, Deputy Minister Makwanishe, Deputy Minister Butimanamela, and all other senior leaders of government that are here, the acting premier. The leadership of COSATU is led by Begin Njali, the acting premier of Gauteng province, Comrade Jacob Mamabulu, members of the provincial legislatures, the provincial secretary of the ANC, Comrade Jacob Kawe, the regional secretary of the ANC, Comrade TK Ngiza, all the former executive mayors that are here, Comrade Dumankosi, Comrade Ntombi Mihwe, Comrade Mondli Kungubele, and myself. The Chief Whip of Council, Comrade Jongizizwe Labati, members of Mayoral Committee, the other mayors who are here coming from Chris Hani, Mbizana, Metsimahulu municipalities, fellow councillors, the Nkobi family, our city manager, Dr. Imojin Mashazi, invited guests, and fellow residents of Ekhuruleni, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all of you. I want to begin by extending our heartfelt greetings to all of you and thank you for honoring this important occasion, an occasion in which we commemorate and celebrate the life of the greatest revolutionary that ever lived, Comrade Thembisile Chris Hani. We use this moment as a city to also commemorate the life of Solomon Kalushu Matlang, a committed activist of the African National Congress, an operative of Umkhonto weSizwe and a young revolutionary who taught us never to dishonor the cause of freedom. 4 days ago, South Africa commemorated the 40th anniversary of his execution, an execution that has demonstrated the depth of the savagery of the regime that had no regard for the black lives. It is impossible to celebrate democracy that we enjoyed here today without reflecting on the long road that we have walked. This work demanded our people that they suffer and sacrifice. For revolutionaries like Chris Hani and Solomon Kalushu Matlang, the sacrifice was absolute. Life itself. Kalushu was only 22 years when he was hanged by the Apartheid government in Pretoria on the 6th of April in 1979. His crime was that he was a young black man who wanted to be human, to live in the country of his own birth, not as a pariah, but as an equal human being with the right of self-determination. This year's commemoration of Kalushu Matlang and the celebration of his life and the celebration of the life of Hani happens at the silent moment in life of our country. In less than a month before now, we will be going to our general election, which is scheduled on the 8th of May 2019. These elections are a vehicle through which our people can determine themselves a future they deserve by choosing their own government. This right, for which many have paid the ultimate price, is one that we dare not take for granted. For this reason, I want to urge all the registered voters to go to the polls on the 8th of May and vote for South Africa that is worth living in. The year 2019 marked 25th year anniversary of the birth of our democracy, a period that has been marked by both immeasurable revolutionary gains and surmountable setbacks. The past 25 years have taught us numerous lessons that we have to internalize both as a governing party, but also as a people's organization. And we must use them as a platform to consolidate our strength and to overcome these setbacks. In drawing the strength and finding ways to navigate these weaknesses, we must necessarily use history as a reference. Contrary to the belief by fatalists in our midst that our country has begun its descent into chaos, there is a clear evidence that we are in fact lifting ourselves above the horizon. Our ability to do this as a governing party and as an organization is linked directly to our indestructible capacity to turn the mirror on ourselves. A culture of revolutionaries like Chris Hani has cemented in our DNA. History has demonstrated that the African National Congress has always been an organization committed to self-reflection. This year marked the 50th anniversary of the Morogoro Conference that was held on the 25th to the 1st of May 1969 in Tanzania. The Morogoro Conference was a moment of reflection for our organization, the ANC, that had been the state of soporification following the battering it had endured in the hands of a vicious apartheid regime. But more importantly, this watershed conference was a product of self-reflection demanded by Chris Hani and the comrade who signed the famed Hanney Memorandum, a memorandum that gave birth to the Morogoro Conference and changed the course of history. Prior to the Morogoro Conference, the ANC had been torn under by internal strife. So significant was the rupture that Hanney and several other comrades were not even allowed to attend the conference. But in true ANC fashion, the concerns that Hanney had raised in the memorandum were engaged in Morogoro. Among these was the concern about the lack of political control and independence of Umkhonto weSizwe. The Morogoro Conference facilitated the integration of MK into the ANC, thereby bringing the military wing under the firm control of the organization. The move resulted in the strengthening of MK, which will prove to be a powerful weapon in the fight against apartheid. This is only one of the several examples of how the ANC leadership listened to and the comrade who differed in the self-corrected. It was also in Morogoro that the strategy and tactics document of the ANC that Hanney characterized as a lodestar of the movement was born. The strategy and tactics document gave coherent and not only to the trajectory of the armed struggle in the country, but also in the principle on which the envisaged national democratic society will be built and anchored on the road to South Africa freedom. This program of the South African Communist Party, adopted 7 years before the Morogoro Conference, shaped the posture and orientation not only of the Congress movement, but of the very struggle for freedom in our country. We are gathered here today to reflect not only on our past, but also to draw lessons on the future. There is very little sense in celebrating and commemorating Chris Hani without borrowing from his life important lessons of our country's future. And so necessarily, we must ask, what does the bravery of Chris Hani in challenging the leadership of the ANC teaches us about Hani himself and about the ANC as an organization? There are many lessons we can draw from Hani, but perhaps there are two most important critical ones which I would like to raise here. Firstly, that the strength of any organization is directly proportionate to its capacity to internalize criticism and grow from it. And secondly, that the struggle for true national democratic society depends on an unwavering sacrifice. In addition to this, Hani teaches us that true revolutionaries are guided by the unflattering moral bravery, unrelentless compassion, and the relentless love for humanity. It is in these traits that serve as a solid foundation for pursuit for justice, about which Chris Hani said, I quote, "If you want peace, then you must struggle for social justice, close quote. Whilst the ANC-led government has made significant gains in pursuit for non-racial, non-sexist and democratic South Africa, in which all are equal, there is undoubtedly still a lot of work that must be done. Centuries of colonial conquest and imperial devastation cannot be undone in 25 years, but evidence clearly demonstrates that this government is committed to redressing the injustices of the past to ensure that the death of revolutionaries like Solomon Mahlangu, Chris Hani, Ekhuruleni 10, it was not in vain. That is South Africa they fought for and died for, and is one where no life is without value. With these few words and brief reflection, I would like to invite you all to join me in celebrating the life of Chris Hani, an upright man of unquestionable moral courage, in whose death as a nation has risen. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Executive Mayor, Councillor Mzwandile Masina. Without any waste of time, may I please request, ngicela ukuthi sisukeni lapho, sisukeni kuzoba khona isikhathi ngoba ngibona abantu bayaphuma balokhu baya lapha. Ngicela sisukeni lapho. Without any waste of time, let me call upon Miss Lindiwe Hanney, who will actually address us on behalf of the Hani family.
Amandla. Ms. Program Director, Minister of Arts and Culture, Mr. Natim Tetwa, Acting Premier, Jacob Bamabolo, Executive Mayor, Mzwandile Masina, ANC Secretary General, Dr. Ace Makashula, SACP Secretary General, Dr. Blaine Zimande, members of COSATU, MKMVA, SANCO, Ekhuruleni government and municipality, and all protocol observed. Good morning. Before beginning, I would like to take a moment of silence to acknowledge our April angels, Ndate O.R. Tambo, Mama Winnie Mandela, Solomon Mahlangu, Ndate Zola Skweyiya, and also those we have lost, Father Stan, and the Nkobi family. Thank you. Once again, the Hani family thanks everyone who has taken the time to attend the wreath-laying ceremony this morning. One would think that it gets easier standing here year after year, but honestly it doesn't. I was at a loss of what I can share this year, as I am sure that you have all heard enough about what a phenomenal father Chris Hani was, which is all true. I am also extremely hesitant to talk about what Chris Hani would have said or what he would have wanted, as I think that is quite presumptuous. I do understand the need for the phrase, what would Hani do? It is part of what gives us hope and a different way of thinking that does not seem to prevail today. But I believe that is the kind of thinking that gets us in trouble, waiting for the messiahs to save us, while honestly, the honest, just fighter resides in all of us. So I decided to take advice of a friend and touch upon what he's already said in his leadership roles while alive, and it's peppered with my own opinion. I'd like to put a disclaimer right now that my views don't represent all the family members of the Hani family. The first quote, "What we need in South Africa is for egos to be suppressed in favor of peace. We need to create a new breed of South Africans who love their country and love everybody, irrespective of their color." Chris Hani. It is no secret that racism is rife in our country. It is actually so entrenched in our daily lives. But the sad part is that we are still busy tiptoeing around it, sometimes even trying to disguise it with words such as privilege. Let's not get it wrong, there is white privilege, which goes across the board, but there's also a deep hatred and racism that was subtly disguised the last 25 years under the guise of the Rainbow Nation. I am very cognizant of the difficulty it is for the average South African to focus on this while struggling to survive. Overcoming hatred is not a priority when you don't know where your next family's meal is coming from, or where you're going to live, or how you're going to pay for your education. It is not easy, and it will not be. It is also not on the previously and often still oppressed people to make that shift. I believe the grand gesture must come from the minority groups in this country that have set upon those lofty pedestals for long enough. Make a genuine effort, listen without being condescending or being dismissive, and be surprised at the return from the other people. The perks of a new government are not really appealing to me. Everybody would like to have a good job, a good salary, but for me, that is not all the struggle. What is important is the continuation of the struggle. The real problems of the country are not whether one is in cabinet, but what we do for the social upliftment of the working masses of our country. Chris Hani. I guess the above quote puts to rest the question of whether he would have been president if he was alive. Because as he eloquently said it, it is lovely to have the security, but someone who had sworn his life to one of servitude, the thought of enriching himself before the people that he swore to serve, had the most basic of needs, was foreign concept. I think it is fair to say that there has been a substantial amount of failure in this regard. I would even be that presumptuous to say from his words, he would be extremely disappointed. It is painful to witness. We need to create the pathways to give hope to our youth, that they can have the opportunity through education and hard work to escape the trap of poverty. Chris Hani. There is no better way to arm the youth than the above quote. It is one of my passions at the moment, but it is not an easy road as it takes collaboration on so many levels, and sometimes that is not forthcoming from the powers that be. It is disheartening to feel powerless over your own life. I know that I have exceeded the youth bracket by a few years, but I am surrounded by so many exceptional young people that want to make a change, but feel that the tools are not at their disposal. The one powerful tool I keep telling young people is their right to make a choice. There is so much noise regarding the elections from all parties, and I hear the lament that none is better than the other. But the most amazing ultimate sacrifices made by such leaders as O.R. Tambo and Chris Hani is that we do have a choice. And it is not only our right, but a privilege to exercise this right. I encourage everyone to make their way on the 8th of May and cast your vote. As much as I really do appreciate the commemoration on the 10th of April every year, it is so important to not only remember our leaders once a year upon their death, but carry their legacy throughout everything we do. We must celebrate them by teaching our children from a young age who they were, what they wanted for South Africa, their methodologies, their sacrifices. We must wear our leaders with a sense of pride. Not only bring them up periodically to appease our guilt, but make them the fabrics of our society by memorializing them in history books, schools, and museums, etc. We also need to celebrate our stalwarts and veterans in life, and not just acknowledge their contributions after they die. We need to take care of them, to remind them and all of us what their sacrifice has meant for our freedom. It is 26 years since Daddy was brutally slain, and 25 since our first election. And honestly, it feels as much as we have taken numerous progressive steps forward, we have taken the same amount of steps backwards. And that might not necessarily be the worst thing. As long as we can own our mistakes and acknowledge that mistakes were made, we can move forward. We need accountability. To conclude, I will leave you with this final quote from Chris Hani, and I will leave it open to your interpretation. Socialism is not about big concepts and heavy theory. Socialism is about decent shelter for those who are homeless. It is about water for those who have no safe drinking water. It is about healthcare. It is about a life of dignity for the old. It is about overcoming the huge divide between urban and rural areas. It is about a decent education for all our people. Socialism is about rolling back the tyranny of the market. As long as the economy is dominated by an unelected, well, not in this case, privileged few, the case for socialism will exist. Thank you, and God bless South Africa. Long live the spirit of Chris Hani, long live.
Mandla ini socialism hlaba wonke ezandleni zabantu akunamuntu athi ini socialism wonke ezandleni zabantu akunamuntu athi ini socialism wonke ezandleni zabantu akunamuntu ate ayesaba makuchi ongoa sebefuna andiva what ate ayesaba amakuchi ongoa sebefuna wakina ati ini socialism wonke ezandleni zabantu akunamuntu sithi ini socialism zabantu akunamuntu Oza abayesababu ayesaba mapuchwa sebefuna adiniva abayesababuna sebefuna
siyabonga kakhulu. Thank you very much, Sislindiwe, for breaking it down to us. Uguti, socialism is not this big theoretical concept, and you begin to simplify it. And as we do our day-to-day work in government, these are the issues that actually issues that touch us as government deployees. That whenever we deliver our services, we are doing it as part of that big concept that has been broken down to us and simplified today, socialism. Siyabonga kakhulu, thank you very much for actually reminding us about the role that was supposed to play. What was predicted then, it is still relevant now. Now we're going to be addressed by political parties, which is sending messages of support represented here. Before we do that, let me properly acknowledge and acknowledge the presence of the two deputy ministers, Deputy Minister Magwanishe and Deputy Minister Utimanamela. Also amongst us, there's a deputy mayor from OR Tambo District Municipality, Councillor Robert Nogumla. Let me call to the podium the representative from MKMVA, represented here by the President, Comrade KB Mapatwe, who's also the Deputy Minister.
Amandla, Matla, all power. Long live the undying spirit of Oliver Tambo, long live. Long live the undying spirit of Chris Hani, long live. Long live the undying spirit of Solomon Mahlangu, long live. Long live the undying spirit of Noguthula Simelane, long live. Matla, Program Director, the Hanney family, the Nkobi family, the Executive Mayor and your entire councillors, the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade Isma Khashule, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, Comrade Blade Zimanda and your entire Central Committee, Comrade Begin Chalinchali, the General Secretary of COSATU, Minister Natim Tetwa, ministers and deputy ministers present here, ladies and gentlemen, comrades, Umkhonto Wesizwe Military Veterans Association, an association of former combatants of the glorious People's Army Umkhonto Wesizwe, is humbled to be part of this 26th commemoration to honor the life of the late Commissar Chris Hani, a leader, a fighter, militant of the African National Congress, who became the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. Comrade Chris was killed by the racist apartheid system 26 years ago, but remains ingrained in the core of our current struggles. His wisdom, militancy, and love for the people, which have continuously been utilized to unite the ANC, the SACP, and the Alliance and the people of South Africa, is constantly missed. When we gather here today and extol his virtues, it will be important that we remember accurately what he stood for, the ideals he lived for, fought for, and died for. Comrade Chris was a fighter for freedom, peace, justice, and equality of all human beings. As he mobilized thousands of young people to join Umkhonto weSizwe and the National Liberation Movement, he was always prepared to lead them by example. He taught that politics behind the gun was more potent than the gun itself. His teaching of politics was based on uniting the movement and the people of South Africa in their entirety. His teachings were based on the fact that tribalism and racism do not have a place in the liberation struggle, nor in the South Africa we're building. His vision was a commitment to the ideals held by the ANC that are, quote, South Africa belongs to all who live in it. He envisioned a South Africa in which all sections of the population would be developed into one South African nation, whose freedom would be the basis for the end of human exploitation of the majority by the few. While he taught about freedom, he also emphasized that it cannot be enough without the people changing the patterns of ownership of the economy of South Africa. He used to explain the nature of the economy of apartheid South Africa. He showed how it cannot be sufficient to sustain the needs of the people of our country if it would be left into the hands of the few who owned it. He emphasized that to transform our country, would have to transform its economy. Hence today, when we speak of freedom and transformation of our economy, we must not fear to challenge the reality of the hideous exploitation and the resistance to access by the majority in our country. We must never allow ourselves to lack historical reference to our cause. We must never deny that historical accumulation in South Africa was based on racism that brutally exploited Africans. We can only change our country fundamentally when we acknowledge its past accurately. The land question has been the basis of our struggle, and the history of our land is a history of dispossession and colonialism. Our response and approach to this historical challenge should always be militant, sober, and measured. It must sue for the highest unity of our people during this hour of need and ensure that the country moves with the same understanding that redistribution must occur. Comrade Secretary General of the ANC, the GS of the party, the GS of COSATU, as MKMVA want to highlight this sensitive issue of letting our national key points being protected by foreign security-owned companies. The resolution of the ruling party, the ANC has recommended that Umkhonto weSizwe must play a role in correcting this situation, as it is happening only in South Africa. There is nowhere in the whole world where private security companies are protecting your national key points. It is only happening here in South Africa. We plead with the ANC-led government to please encourage the President to sign the Private Security Amendment Bill that will see the necessary regulatory changes happening in this instance. Our own security companies that are patriotic, that are South African, have been isolated and neglected. So it's very important, as we honor Comrade Chris Hani, we ask the President to sign the Private Security Amendment Bill so that our own companies, also led by former freedom fighters, are the ones that will protect the national key points. The ANC is facing the challenges of election campaigning full of vigor in the spirit of Tumamina. This is a call of readiness to serve, to put people first, and put all hands on deck to ensure a better life benefiting the lives of the majority. This call is important to ensure that the leadership and public servants put the people first, always ready to address challenges and be led by the people. In conclusion, as MKMVA, we appeal for a return to the values of the liberation movement that Comrade Chris Hani lived for and died for. We call upon the liberation movement to unite so that it can lead the people behind itself with a vision that seeks to unite all South Africans in their march towards a better future. As we approach the 8 May election, we want to request the alliance structures and the ANC that for this moment, let's suspend all our hostilities. Let us speak with one voice as the ANC and the alliance. Let us stop attacking each other in the media as if we don't come from the same organization. Let us protect each other from branch up to the national leadership. Comrade Program Director, this was the life and vision of Commissar Chris Hani, a selfless revolutionary to the end, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, President. Thank you very much, Siabulela. Sanko, is there a representative? I don't see. Oh, Comrade Chris. And then thereafter it will be Kosatu. Then SACP General Secretary, Comrade Bladen Zimande, and finally it will be ANC Secretary General, Comrade Ace.
No, it's fine, thank you. Agali. Matla! Arona! Matla! Arona! Thank you very much, Program Director. Without any waste of time, let me say all who is here has been greeted. Without going to positions, including you, mostly important, those who attended here as the volunteers. It is not about what they thought they will steal. It is the content that we have learned from this gallant fighter, from Chris Hani that voto, the Hani family, the Ngobi family. Let me take this opportunity to relalelona, but we learn a lot from you. Time and again, when we come here, you are so passionate and so simple, as if you didn't lose. But we understand you have lost, not necessarily as a family, we have lost as a family in this country, that you have lost gallant who fought and who fought for our rights. Allow me to take this opportunity to say, it is Chris Hani who was retired by the Poland machinery, who had an intention of ensuring that we don't see 1994. The intention was to destabilize the situation so that we don't taste the taste of voting in our country. They knew very well that once we vote, we are going to take over and will transform the country from apartheid to democracy, where we'll all enjoy rights. And allow me, when we enjoy rights, that we must not enjoy the rights, specifically to the media. You have designed a project that you are dealing with our leaders. We don't know whether you are agents of this imperialist or doing this deliberately so that to destabilize it. You have got a tendency of writing not necessarily the truth, but writing everything false. Take time and tell the nation who killed Chris Hani, why Chris Hani was killed. You don't do that. You will target one leader today and you will succeed. This time we want to tell you that we have gone through all what you are writing. We are convincing that you are not telling the truth. The truth is that all of our leaders are tried and tested, and we know them, and we are going to rally behind them. With those words, comrades, allow the South African National Civic Organization to remind all of us here that Resika fela matla, Harien gadi 8, Rilo vota, Rivonte unsa idea tali imperialistic araba tubaborena. Remake sure Chris Hani Mwaleng wana wataba wani as the African National Congress. Today we are proud to announce that Vanaba Yali Golonza Tutoye Pami free of charge. Rehepuri modeling on as the city clinic they are becoming the sample of the entire country. Uri abuchencha bupilo batubakiria togomelo yabona mahala. Really, African National Congress, we are here for over 5 million. Yamando aiwe. Kimang omungo can do that. None. The EFF and the DA, what they are doing in Tshwane is going to be worse. Refrain from death. When they took over 2016, they knew that they have to deliver. Now they want to tell us that no, it was not to them. When we took over in 1994, we knew that we had to change the life and the living condition of our masses. And that is what we are doing. With those words, Comrade Program Director, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chris. That is the message from Sanko. Let me get a representative from COSATU, Comrade Mike Shingange.
Sunday, unity makavane, especially soon. Mandla, Mandla, Matla, Karuna, Aluta, Aluta. Long live the memory of Comrade Chris Hani, long live. Long live the African National Congress, long live. Long live the SACP, long live. Kina Kosato, Kina. Viva Sanko, viva. Comrade Program Director, the Hanney family, Medimpo and your daughter, the Nkobi family, the Secretary General of the African National Congress, the General Secretary of the SACP, Comrade Blade, the Second Deputy President of COSATU, the National Treasurer, the General Secretary, Comrade Begi, the Central Executive Committee members of COSATU present here, and let me, like Comrade Blade, say that all potholes observed. Before I leave anyone else. As the Congress of South African Trade Unions, we are honored to stand in this grave site of a hero, the soldier of Umkhonto weSizwe, to salute his life at a time when the nation is on the threshold of celebrating the 25 years of the triumph of the revolution. We salute alongside all South Africans when the movement is once again called upon to defend itself but continue the legacy of Comrade Chris. This fearless soldier, an intellectual who ever walked in this planet, has left us with a task of continuing to fight
for the liberation of our people, defend our revolution with everything that we have, and we want to confirm that as COSATU indeed is a task that we shall not fail. Today, as workers under the leadership of the Federation COSATU, we want to report to Comrade Chris that despite all the challenges that our movement might be facing, despite the conjunctural difficulties or setbacks that we have as a federation, a task to defend our revolution and a task to fight for the liberation of our people is a task we shall not fail, is a task we shall not abandon. We want to say to him, we reaffirm his warning or his advice that whatever the challenges the movement might be going through, never turn your back against your movement and never take a decision out of anger. That is why, as COSATU, even when we went through difficult times, even when the societal challenges were overwhelming us, even when we got advices from those who pretended to love us, that the best way was for us to leave the movement, to break the alliance, to form an independent trade union movement, or to even form what was called a workers' party at the time. We resisted an ill advice that came our way. Because we took it from Chris Hani, that when times are difficult, it is not a time that you must turn your back on your people, because turning your back on the movement will be equal to turning your back on the people that so much depend on you for the liberation. We now know, comrades, that as we move to elections, some of those who will have wanted us to leave the movement have now standing on their own in the so-called independent trade union movement. They are heading to parliament, they are confusing our people, they are confusing the workers, and in this context, that indeed the teaching of Comrade Ameka Cabral, that you must not hide anything from the people and you must expose lies whenever they are told, is coming to fore, because now every South African can see why is it that an attempt to weaken and destroy the Federation as a way of destroying the ruling alliance was made. It was for this purpose and for this purpose only. Comrades, when we go through the difficulties we're going through today, including the many commissions we are going through today, that to many threatens the very existence of the movement and the integrity and the standing of the movement in the eyes of society, and in particular as we go towards elections. We remember that during Chris Hani's time in our liberation movement, there were many other difficulties. In fact, there were commissions that were formed during the days of the struggles. We all remember the Stuart commissions. We all remember the Mutsonyane commissions, and many, many commissions that sought to establish the truth in our camps, in our movement, but it was at a time when our movement was looking for international recognition and support, and also was looking to entrench itself within society. But instead of losing face, the movement triumphed in the revolution and eventually won the election in 1994. It is our belief that even with the presence of the Zondo Commission, the PIC Commission, the SARS Commission, which is an important part that we as COSATU even sacrifice a day's wages to demand that our movement must set up a commission so that we investigate the extent of the capturing of our state in our country. It is the fact that the ANC will have listened to establish this commission. It will only serve to strengthen this movement in the eyes of the society. It will only serve to bring back again the trust and the confidence of our people in the movement, that where mistakes are made, we are the first one to appreciate them, to admit them, and to commit never to do them again. And where progress has been made, ourselves as a federation will be the first one to acknowledge them and give credit where it is due. It is in that context, comrades, that we are now faced with the task of defending the revolutionary forces at the helm of the state that's supposed to be used to continue the transformation agenda and the liberation of our people by going to the 8th May election and defend the revolution in the state. COSATU has taken a resolution in its Congress to do everything in our power, humanly possible, providing resources, human and capital, to make sure that the African National Congress sweep the coming elections with an overwhelming victory. Our workers, our shop stewards are on the ground. They are engaging the workers, they are engaging societies to make sure that it is not only the correct thing, but it's a logical thing to do to retain the African National Congress to power. We're doing so because despite the challenges that we have, we know that all the victories that we have scored as workers, we didn't score them on our own. We didn't score them only because of our power, but we scored them combining our strength as a federation, but also working with a democratic state led by the African National Congress. It is through that work that today we've got the national minimum wage, today we've got all the progressive labor laws, today we've got all the rights to protest and strike and form unions, which we know that they're at the verge of being reversed, shall it happen that any other reactionary parties come into power after the general election. It is in that context that we're going to defend the African National Congress. We want the ANC, comrades, as our last word, taking from what the thought of Comrade Chris was raising about what socialism will mean. We want the ANC to win, and for the last time, it must develop bold to make sure that it implements its progressive resolutions. Because the African National Congress has no poverty in terms of the progressive resolutions. The poverty we have is turning them into state and government policies. And we want to stand here and say we're going to do everything to defend all the resolutions of the ANC. We want the ANC coming from the elections to move with necessary speed, to intervene in the economy, to discipline capital, to intervene in the market. We want the ANC to use its state power to make sure that it nationalize the Reserve Bank, or at least it must change the mandate of the Reserve Bank so that the Reserve Bank can intervene in the economy. Our problem we have, which is going to take a long time before our people are able to participate in the economy, it is because banks, in particular the monopoly banks in this country, are not compelled to lend our people enough money in order to start their own businesses. We want the Reserve Bank to compel the banks that 30% or no, if not 50% of their lending annually must be directed towards the economic development of our people in this country. And that is a resolution the African National Congress has, but is that a resolution that the African National Congress seems to develop cold feet when it comes to implementation. We're giving the mandate to go to the state to come and implement this resolution. We want the pharmaceutical company owned by the state so that we can make sure that medicine in this country are not inaccessible to the poor of this country. And that is a resolution that the ANC has. We want, coming from the election, that resolution should be implemented. It cannot be acceptable, comrades, that in a country where 17 million lives in the grant, social grant, in a country where about 38% of people are not employed in this country, we still allow company to fix the price of bread and we only find them 10%. It can't be acceptable. We can't be serious and be intolerant on corruption in the public service, and we keep quiet with what we call collusion and accounting irregularities in the private sector, and we only find them 10%. When you find them 10%, they get the 10% from all of us. By increasing the prices of the commodities we need, we are the one who end up paying the 10%. We want the corruption in the private sector to be confronted by all of us, but in particular, we want a government that is going to increase the maximum penalty that must be given to the multi-companies and the big companies and the corporate people that are here, that are defrauding our people and robbing our people every day. With that, comrades, we think that which Comrade Chris Hani said about what socialism is, not just big words, but the tangible things that liberate our people from the bondage of the monopoly capital, is going to be realized, and we shall be living his legacy and his dream. Amandla! Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. No. Thank you very much, Comrade from Kosatu. If we were not pressed with time, because today is the memorial service of one of our giant trade unionists, Baba Usech Mukonyane, who was very active in the formation of COSATU. I'm reminded the song of Pagamani Basebenzi Sikonde Pambili. Noba kunzima, kodwa masiphakameni ma-Afrika sin phambili. Today it's his memorial service. May his dearest soul rest in peace. Ubab Usech Mukonyane was a very humble man. Those of us who had the opportunity to work with him whilst he was an official of Kawusa then, we say, Lala ngotolo comrade, usebenzile umsebenzi wakho. When you look back at the trade union today, at the trade union movement today, when you look back, we say, salute, siyabonga. Ngaloma magama ngicela omunye we-South African Communist Party aphakamise Comrade Blayton Nzimande, General Secretary of the SACP.
Amandla! Amandla! Long live the memory of Comrade Chris Hani, long live! Long live the memory of Comrade Chris Hani, long live! Favor the ANC, favor! Tata ANC, Tata! Favor the SACP, viva! Viva COSATU, viva! Viva Sanko, viva! Phansi capitalism, phansi! Forward to socialism, forward! Amandla! Mphathi wohlelo, ngiyabonga. Ngicela ukuqala ngokubingelela u-Ausdimpo nayo yonke ifamily yakwani. Ngibingelela kuComrade uNathi Mthethwa ola njengongqongqoshe we-Arts and Culture. Comrade Ace Magashule, the Secretary General of the ANC. Comrade Solima Paila, the First Deputy General Secretary, SACP. Comrade Mike Shingange, a Vice President, COSATU. Acting Premier, Comrade Mamabulo and Mayor Masina. Ngibingelele wonke amanye ama-comrades akhona la ngokwemisebenzi yayo ehlukene abayinikwe imbutho kanye nohulumeni. Kodwa ke kakhulukazi bese ngibingelela kunina nonke ama-comrades enikhona namhlanje. Sibonge njengokujwayelekile samakomanisi ukuthi njalo uma kumhla ka-10 ku-April nishiye konke enikwenzayo sizohlanganyela la ukuze sikhumbule leli qhawe lethu. Today we mark the 26th year since Comrade Hani was brutally and cowardly assassinated. The gun that was used to murder Comrade Chris was taken from the military armory. It was taken neither by the Polish immigrant Janusz Walusz, who pulled the trigger, nor by Clive W. Lewis, who supplied Walusz with the murder weapon. The truth about who took the gun from the military armory, whose hands it passed through, and how many hands formed the transmission chain until it reached W. Lewis and to Janusz Walusz has not been disclosed. The SACP therefore continues to stand against the release of Janusz Walusz. We want full disclosure and we want justice to be done. Ukhona ke namhlanje sebesenza ongcwele ngcwele. Kuthiwa iCommunist Party yoxola nini. Asive sineyinhliziyo ezinhle, no Ausdimpo unenhliziyo enhle,
Phela soxola ngamhlazane kwavela iqiniso. Before the truth we cannot. So those asebe abefundisi nabefundisikazi abakhulu ukudlula abafundisi bethu esinabo la ukuthi siloko sibanga umsindo ngento eyodwa akube yibona abahamba phambili ukuthi loya walushi akakhuluma ukuthi kwenzeka kanjani yonke lento. The assassination of Comrade Chris was not an act of one or two individuals. That's it. Now, comrades, of course, what they were trying to do was to plunge our country into a racial war. Without the leadership yombuto wethu ngaleso sikhathi, indeed our country would have experienced bloodshed of an unthinkable magnitude. But we must also remember all the time that as we celebrate the 27th of April, that it was the blood of Comrade Chris and many other martyrs who actually brought about this democracy that we have today. Of course, we know the situation could have been worse, but it's wrong also to tell history to say our transition was peaceful. That's a lie. Our transition was never peaceful. Many, many people died, including the blood of Comrade Chris Hani. Now, the date that we set can never be understood fully unless and until we tell the stories of Bulawa Kaput Chris, as we used to call them, those of us who had the luck to work with him. And as Undotagazi outlined it here. One thing very important about Comrade Chris, he was very bold. But not only bold in relation to fighting the apartheid regime, he was also bold to raise wrong things inside the organization. And he stood up, and there was a memorandum that they wrote which led to the Morogoro Conference in 1969 because he believed wrong things must be raised inside the organization so that they are addressed. Today, my comrades, let's speak the truth. Siyasaba ukureza izinto ezi-wrong embutweni ngoba sicabangela izisu zethu ey'khathini ey'ningi. The difficulties we were in today is because many of us can't stand up and point out wrong things that are happening right now in our own movement. We must say those things and raise those things, because if we don't do it, our movement will perish. By the way, I want to remind people that when we talk about our movement has a number of organizations, but it's broader than just one organization. We are different organizations, but we belong to one movement. The movement that fought for the liberation of this country, that continues to fight for the reconstruction and development of this country. If one part of the movement does something wrong, we are all implicated. You know, I want to say something. These comrades who have got an issue about this book of late, about USG Wade, they have a right to raise objections and criticize that book. We give them that. But they have no right in our name to go and disrupt the launch of the book and also threaten to ban the book. They have no right to do so. That is wrong. We are glad the ANC has condemned that, because that's taking us back to the dark ages. But comrades, this is a lesson. This is a lesson. We have allowed too many wrong things to happen on the basis that people are pursuing the right cause. We allowed our universities and colleges to be banned because the students were fighting the right cause. We allow our libraries, our clinics, even sometimes our schools to be burnt and destroyed because those communities are fighting for the right thing. Fighting for the right thing must not allow people to do wrong things. We must condemn that, because if we don't do it, it actually means we are digging the grave. It's very important that we say that. Namhlanje ama challenges esiwafacile, we want to say this, are both inside and outside umbutho wethu. Akufanele siloku sishona lena le. The challenges we face are both inside and outside. You know, as the SACP, we want to say today once more, we are calling on all our people to vote for the African National Congress on the 8th of May. We have no other organization that is best placed to take our revolution forward other than the ANC. But as we stand here, we must at the same time, comrades, say, let the ANC and all of us who are part of this movement also say, as we win the election, we are also committing ourselves to deal with all the wrong things in our movement. The ANC ayizalwa kabusha emva kwale election. Thina as amakomanis, we are a dependable ally, ye African National Congress, but we don't want to be in alliance with factions in the African National Congress. We want to be in an alliance with the ANC as a movement. And we want to say it here. Emva kokhetho, my comrades, as amakomanis, we're going to be raising the things we are unhappy about Mbutweni even sharper. We can't continue like this, otherwise the revolution here too is coming off the rails. It's very important that we say it here. As the ANC wins, let our movement as a whole be born again, anew. If we don't do that, we won't retain power in future. Ingako criticize chaos. We have no chaos, siuvumele. People abantshontsha umbala wethu amakomanisi. You know, comrades, part of the things ezithi must correct ilezi. Kukhona ama-twins la, nezelamani, zizalwa ubaba nomama oyedwa. Amagama azonawo. Factionalism, state capture, corruption, gatekeeping, populism, anti-intellectualism. Ingane zandawonye zonke lezi. And unless we deal with this, Comrade Chris would have died in vain. Namhlanje, it's very easy to go and stand in front of the people and promise them something that you know that we won't be able to do. Because you want to be popular. That's populism. This anti-intellectualism simply means today, increasingly, we don't want people who have ideas, who can raise their own views, who can analyze. Because umuntu analyzayo akafuneki kwi-faction. Because kwi-faction kufuneka izimvo ezitshela kuthiwa hack this side kuvotelwa lo, you don't question that. That's why we are criticizing izinto ezirong. State capture sihamba ne-anti-intellectualism because kufuna unga-question uma kuthiwa yeba la vele uthula unga-analyze uhambe uyontshontshwa. That's all. That's why sithi ingane zandawonye lezi zizalwa ubaba oyedwa nomama oyedwa. We must say to them, You don't belong to our family, which is this movement, Comrade Chris Hani and many of our own heroes. Comrades, we want to move towards ukuthi ngiqede mphathi wohlelo ungaze ungibuke kabi. Ungaze ungibuke kabi. ANC ayivotelwe my comrades. And yeah, I want to end by just highlighting some of the things which are important for us as the SACP. We want the ANC government to clean our state-owned enterprises. Asina gas namhlanje ngenxa yobusela. Bekwebiwa imali kwa-Eskom nakwa-Transnet, billions of rands. Abanye babantu abebeba le mali bahlele Dubai, and we know ukuthi they are still using some of their money to fight our movement. With a fight back campaign, ukuthi we must not deal nobusela obusicishela amalambu. We want the government to invest in Eskom, and Eskom must participate in clean renewable energy. Akungabi into a private sector lento ye clean and renewable energy. Eskom as a state-owned entity must participate in that. We want the ANC to preserve the jobs of the hard-working rank-and-file workers and create decent work. Siyavumelana nawe Comrade Mike, nawe Comrade Beg, neKosatu as a whole. We also are saying develop the productive sector of the state and also support our cooperatives. No soma business abancane. Sihlale siyiphinda lento siyikhuluma kodwa singayenzi. Ikhishelwane school feeding sibe ithenda yomuntu oyedwa okufanele afite izikole eziwu-30. Agcine nika abantwana u-half we-slice instead of 2 slices ngoba ufuna ukufaka imali ekhukhwini. Imiphakathi ayizondlela abantwana babo. Ayinikwe le mali omama nobaba bazondlele izingane zabo, ingakhishwa ezithenda lento. We are saying we support Comrade Cyril as our president. Lento athi uyayilwisa yokungcola. We fully support thina njengamakomanisi siyamsupport. Laba basithukayo bathi support uComrade Cyril ngoba sifuna izikhundla. We want to say amakomanisi awakazalwela izikhundla. Ingakho noma sixoshwa kuthiwa thatha ibhanchi lakho, ngithatha ibhanchi lami ngibheke kithi kaDambuza ngoba kangingafikeli isikhundla uma engizosebenzela sona lana. Ngibuye ngiye embuthweni ngiyosebenza embuthweni. Today kunama comrades angafuni ukuya ku-election because bathi ngoba asikhethiwe asizungene emalistini, so they are not going to campaign. That's wrong. That's actually violating into eyayimelwa ama-comrades afana no-Chris Hani. I-national health insurance siyayifuna ku-ANC. In other words, comrades, what we are saying, i-ANC siyayithanda umbutho wethu, but we can't give comrades a blank check. Ukuthi once nakhethwa senizozenzela into eniyithandayo. Not at all. Kufana nalento uma sikunika isikhundla ucabanga ukuthi esakho sekufanele wenze noma kanjani, umuntu enidebate naye umxoshe ngoba nangakavumelani nento oyishoyo. That is wrong. That is wrong. Asiyavotela le ANC, but our own movement must also be reborn. Ngicela ukubonga kuwo wonke umuntu okhankasaya siyokhankasela i-ANC. I also want to thank the raid brigades of the South African Communist Party for being everywhere. Niyokhankasa nikhankasela lo mbutho. Tata ANC, Tata! Long live the memory of Comrade Chris Hani, long live! Mandla!
mtanam Gula mtanam Belokane Sisochi Amandla
Stella sihlale phansi sishiwa isikhathi. Stella sihlaleni phansi iprogram yethu ayikakapheli. Stella sihlaleni phansi iprogram ayikakapheli. Ngicela simamelelane. Ngicela sihlaleni phansi. Hlalani phansi. Hlalani phansi. Comrade Saruna, cela uhlale phansi. Ayihlale phansi ibambe umthetho. Ayihlale phansi ibambe umthetho. Ayihlale phansi ibambe umthetho. Seslin. Thank you very much. We are now going to get our last speaker. Ozosinikeza a message of support before sithola keynote address. The ANC represented here today by Secretary General Comrade Ace Magashule.
Sekuseliza insuku ezingaphi yawo ANC zophatha ANC zophatha Sekuseliza insuku ezingaphi yawo ANC zophatha ANC zophatha anti ANC zophatha Sekuseliza insuku ezingaphi ANC zophatha ANC zophatha ANC faka umlilo Sekuseliza insuku ezingaphi insuku ezingaphi ANC zophatha abomama babathi sekuseliza insuku ezingaphi ANC zophatha ANC zophatha Amandla emazweni yobak emazweni bakhalanga freedom chart ANC emazweni bakhalanga emazweni ANC freedom chart ANC Emangam chart Amandla Socialism thina sobuya nayo Socialism thina sobuya nayo Oskokele tambo Oskokele tambo Socialism sobuya nayo Socialism thina sobuya Oskokele
Oskokele tambu. Oskokele. Oskokele tambu. Thank you, comrades. Ereke tumedisa family ya Mmedi Mpohani le ba o potapotile. Comrade Zwandile Masina, the mayor of Ekhuruleni. Comrade Nati Zwandile, also the chairperson of the ANC in the region. Because when we're in government, we don't want to refer those in government as comrades. Those titles make them to forget where they come from. Comrade Nati, the Minister of Arts and Culture, a member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC. Nobalo Mkolo, Comrade GS, Comrade Blayton Zimande, and the leadership of the SACP, Comrade Begin Chalinchali and Comrade Mike, and the entire leadership of COSATU, the leadership of Sanko, the leadership of the ANC Youth League and the Women's League, the leader, president of MKMVA, Comrade KB Mapatwe, the family of Comrade Nkobi, our former TG, all comrades who are here, important leaders of branches, because in the ANC, the branch is the basic unit of the ANC. I'm happy, comrades, that we are assembled here to celebrate and commemorate the life of Comrade Chris Hani. And the daughter of Comrade Chris Hani has told us who Chris Hani was and is. Comrade Chris Hani was the leader of the Communist Party. Comrade Chris Hani was the leader of the African National Congress. There is no way in the past, I don't know today, there was no way you could become a communist before you are a member of the ANC. You were supposed first and foremost to be nurtured, baked and grilled in the politics of the ANC, in the culture and tradition of the ANC. And once you understand the ANC, our National Democratic Revolution, you will then be identified then to be a member of the Communist Party. You could not be a member of the Communist Party without being grilled and nurtured first and foremost in the politics of the ANC. And that's why during those days, when you are a member of the Communist Party, we refer to you as an advanced cadre. And an advanced cadre is a cadre when there are challenges and problems in our movement. Is a cadre who will actually stand up, as Comrade Blade says, brave and say, we can't allow these wrong things to happen. It is that type of a cadre who will believe in collective decision-making. The ANC, as Comrade Blade says, is a movement. The ANC is not an organization of leaders. The ANC is not an organization of those who are elected. The ANC is an organization of ordinary members, community members. The ANC is not just a movement of card-carrying members. The ANC is the voice of the people, especially the poor and the working class. That is the ANC. And I think if we don't define the ANC correct, comrades, that is why the character of the ANC is still the same as the ANC of the olden days, during those days of struggle against apartheid and colonialism. It is still a liberation movement. It is not an organization of leaders. But the ANC has principles. The ANC believes not in individuals. The ANC believes in collectivism. When we take decisions, and once we have taken decisions as a collective, you can't go out of the decisions of a collective and you become the special individual who can actually speak, and you speak your mind. We are directed by those principles. And as Comrade Mike from COSATU says, the ANC must implement its decisions. When you go to Parliament after May elections, because we are not arrogant, we know that the ANC, the people of this country will vote ANC, the ANC of selflessness, the ANC of Chris Hani, the ANC of Thomas Ngobi, the ANC of Oliver Tambo, the ANC of Winnie Madikizela Mandela, the ANC of Peter Mugabe and Pax Mangashan, the ANC of all of us, rich and poor, educated and illiterate, the ANC of those people, Badula Mikuku. This ANC must never lose its character, comrades. We must continue. And that's why those who will be going to Parliament must not become independent voices. They must not be led by their conscience. They must be led by the principles of the ANC. Once they are in Parliament, they can't be after election. Once we have elected them, they become individuals, and they are important, they are special, they are not part of the voice of a collective. When we move forward, that's why they must implement, and I agree with Comrade Mike. In fact, when we were in Cuba, the Cubans said, this revolution, if you can implement and nationalize the Reserve Bank, you must know you are going to fight the biggest fight ever in the history of the ANC. Nationalize the Reserve Bank. Nationalize it, comrades. Free education. Make sure it happens. You will be going to Parliament. Implement the National Conference decision, because the National Conference is the highest decision-making body in the African National Congress. Don't give us reasons. And that's why during this day, when we remember Comrade Chris Hani, that's why we must salute the Minister of International Relations. When he said, I listened to her on Sunday, when she said this is the time now to implement a conference resolution and downgrade the embassy of Israel in South Africa. I think we should salute the minister and say you are doing the right thing. You are doing it at the right time, so that we actually tell some people of South Africa that we are implementing our decisions. Comrades, Comrade Chris Hani believed in collectivism. I once attended a rally with Comrade Chris Hani in Frankfurt in 1992. And Comrade Chris Hani addressed 86 people. He did not wait for the stadium to be full. He addressed 86 people as if he was addressing thousands and thousands of people. That is Comrade Chris Hani. I wish he was still alive. Because if Chris Hani was alive, MK comrades who don't have shelter won't be there. MK comrades who have sacrificed and fought for this liberation, we're not going to stay under bridges. MK comrades who fought for you and I to be free, we're not going to be what they are today. We have forgotten them. And I'm sure during this day of Comrade Chris Hani, we must actually say and look back and say we wish Comrade Chris was there. But Comrade Chris was never an individual. He believed in collective leadership, and that's why as we move forward, you know, Comrade Hani, Comrade Chris was one of the most powerful leaders of the ANC. But he was a very simple man. He was an orator of note. He was charismatic. He cared about comrades. He was not a leader of status who believes in boardrooms. He was the man of the masses. Those are the leaders we need today. He was not the man of the media. He was never like Winnie Mandela, made by the media. He was never. There is no leader of the ANC who has been made by the media. Because the media can build you and destroy you. The media can build you and destroy you. And you think you are popular. You think you are popular. You can't be popular. Because even Nelson Mandela was not popular more than the ANC. Because Nelson Mandela was only born in 1918. The ANC came in 1912. So Chris Hani was one of the best leaders ever produced by the history of struggle. And a lot of things were said about Comrade Chris Hani. And he moved on. And that's what Chris Hani is. And that's why we are honoring him today. I agree with Comrade Blade. It's unfortunate that Comrade banned this book. It's unfortunate. There is no intellectualism about it. But what we need to do, comrades, we have fought for freedom of speech. Let those who write whatever they want to write. When you pen their book, you make them so special. I think we must condemn that. And sober ANC structures and leaders and branches must never be provoked by Asian provocateurs. We must just move on. If you know the truth, one day will triumph. You just need on and focus, and you walk, comrades, until the truth has been exposed. And that's why we must agree with Comrade Blade. I don't think we should talk in different tongues. The SACP says this, COSATU says this, ANC says this. We must say no to the release of Walus. If we're in charge of power, you know the mistake which the ANC always does. When it is in power, it doesn't know how to use that power. It doesn't know how to use that power. If you are in power, comrades, you must make sure that Walus does not come out of jail until the truth has been exposed. And that doesn't mean we don't want to reconcile. The daughter of Comrade Chris Hani has told us about racism is still inexistent in South Africa. It's even worse now, comrades. Racism. The party was doing door to door today. They went to one of the farms and they have seen what is happening there. Our people are still 25 years after freedom because we don't know how to use power. And after elections, we must be able to use power. We must use power. We must unite. I agree with the party. There shouldn't just be vote ANC after voting ANC. Then we are not critical of one another. Let's fix the organization. Let's make sure we win these elections. After election, as Comrade Blade says, let's sit down. Let's talk, let's discuss. Let's build the ANC proper. Let it not be the ANC of money, where leaders are elected from ground level because it is those who have money We must make sure that the ANC is an ANC of leaders who are out of struggle. The ANC of leaders who understand the struggle. It is not the ANC of people in boardrooms who are better than the rest. The ANC is the movement of the people of South Africa. So during this celebration and memorial of Comrade Chris Hani, I think we must come together, comrades, unite and soldier on. Rudimentary organs of people's power. You know, there were two leaders during those days of apartheid. Oliver Tambo said, let's make the country ungovernable. And we succeeded, comrades, because we had leaders like Comrade Chris Hani. And Comrade Chris Hani was responsible, and many others, in the underground to establish rudimentary organs of people's power. And that's why we are here today. And Ekhuruleni during those days was there in the struggle. And that's why this area, this place is important, because it was not just an area like Nje. People of Ekhuruleni, that's where the SIUs were there. This is the people who faced the mighty bullets of apartheid. And that's why we are here. It is good that we are celebrating Chris Hani here. We must never also forget the people of Lesotho, the people of Zambia, and Tanzania, and Angola, and Mozambique, and Namibia, and many other people. We must never forget, comrades. We must not be apologetic when we work with the Communist Party of China. We must never be apologetic when we work with Cuba. We must never be apologetic when we work with Russia. When you go into government, what you must do, first and foremost, you must go to those countries. All the roads must not all the time go to London. As if we have never succeeded and we have never fought against and we have never been supported by these countries. We must continue supporting Western Sahara. We must continue supporting Venezuela. We must continue supporting the poor, the poorest in South Africa. We must live amongst them. We must be part of them. Because that's what Chris Hani did when he was alive. The man of significance. The leader of note, Comrade Chris Hani. I wish all of us, comrades, can be as simple as Comrade Chris Hani. Harikatwella, unahana buetapili status. You know people only when you want to go to parliament. You know people only want to be elected. It's not about status. It's not about who you are. It's not about who important you are. It is to serve those who don't have. It is to make sure you are selfless. Boetapele ke boetapele ka batho. O motho ka baka ba batho ba bang. Ke se ANC dumelang ho sona. Amandla. Long live the spirit of Comrade Chris Hani. Long live. Long live the spirit of Comrade Chris Hani. Long live. Long live the South African Communist Party. Long live. Sizwethatha in South Africa nge-socialism. That's what we believed during those days. So, Comrade Hani, remain a simple, humble family you are. You have never come out in the ANC because, like the Cubans, when they left Angola during Kuto Carnival, they said, Hariatla mo, unka di khauta li di taiman li di minerals tsenang le tsona. Re lwanetse ebile re khutla la Cuba, re khutla ebile ba bang ba rona e le ditopo fela mona re a ba sia re khutla le bona. Le wena e tshwa jwalo re masapo a bahale ba rona ba ntse ba le Lesotho, masapo a bahale ba rona ba ntse ba le Mozambique le Tanzania le Angola, masapo a bana ba rona ntse a tletse Afrika Borwa mo re sa tsebeng ba shwelletse kae. Masapo ano re ke ra fetoa until freedom ya rona re fumane, and re fumane economic freedom, because economic freedom a se a magua fela. Skara tama magua after elections We must make sure that we fill the African National Congress. A luta continua. The struggle continues for emancipation of our people for the better. The struggle continues for better education. The struggle continues until our people have water. The struggle continues until everybody has electricity. In fact, Comrade President Ramaphosa in our meeting said, one thing we must make sure that after election is free is water. Water. We must make water free. Our people must get free water. Because water is the basic thing. So I said, President, I think we support you. We don't have to go to hold another national conference to give our people water. So we are expecting after elections, izinto zizabuya comrades. Amandla.
Thank you very much, Siyabonga. Thank you very much. Imvula iyeza. Thank you very much. Siyabonga. Siyabonga. Siyabonga kakhulu. Thank you. Allow me to call to the podium our acting Premier of Gauteng Province, Honorable Jacob Mamabulo, to actually come and make an input and also introduction of the keynote speaker.
Amanda! Comrades, in respect of time, I'll be very brief. Thank you very much, Program Director, the Speaker of the Council, Comrade Pat Kumar. I must also, Comrade, say for many years I've seen Comrade Pat presiding over this event with great honor, with very great dignity and excellence. And today I'd like to thank you very much, Comrade Pat. Thanks a lot. To Comrade Hanney, Comrade Lindiwe Hanney, the Nkobi family and all families of our martyrs, General Secretary of the SACP and Minister of Transport, Dr. Blade Nzimande, and all office bearers of the SACP, CC members and leaders of the YCL, Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Esma Hashule, leading all NEC members and leadership of the ANC at all levels and the leagues. First Deputy President of COSATU, Comrade Mike Shingange, and General Secretary of COSATU, Comrade Begin Njali, and leaders of affiliates of COSATU. The Provincial Chairperson of SANCO, Comrade Chris Malibacha, who delivered a message on behalf of SANCO. Ministers and Deputy Ministers present, Mayor Zwandile Masina, and all members of the Mayoral Committee. All leaders of the Alliance in our province, Comrade Jacob Kawe, Mpapa Kanyani, Comrade Amos Munyela, Comrade Tumsani Takile. Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, Comrade Ntombi Mehwe, all MPs and MPLs and mayors present, and all councillors. To all our veterans and stalwarts, government officials, comrades and compatriots. Program Director, allow me to convey an apology of our Honorable Premier David Makura. On his directive, I'm pleased to welcome and greet all of you present. Today is an important day for us in the province, a day that we celebrate and commemorate the revolutionary life and living legacy of Comrade Chris Hani, Comrade Program Director, I'm deeply honored and privileged to greet, to acknowledge and express a word of welcome and appreciation of presence, and therefore introduce the Honorable Minister of Arts and Culture, Nathi Mthethwa, Member of Parliament, and well-celebrated leader of our movement. Honorable Minister, we have the honor to receive your keynote address. Thank you, and Amanda. Thanks, Comrade.
Thank you, MEC Mamabulo, Comrade Jacob, and to the program director, Comrade Pat here, the Hani family, Sis Dimpo and Liliwe, our Mayor Masina, ministers and deputy ministers here present, the leadership of the African National Congress, led by the Secretary General of the ANC, the SACP, led by General Secretary Mphepheta, the COSATU, led by the first Deputy President, Comrade Mike Shingange, Sanko, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Hani's memorial commemoration marks the 26th anniversary of the act of what we should understand clearly as murder. Comrade Thembisile Hani, better known to all of us in his name as Chris, was murdered in broad daylight in an act of violence that is one of the link of the long chain of repression that commenced with the illegalization of Communist Party in 1950, followed by the liberation movements, the African National Congress, the PAC, 10 years later. The banning of the ANC and the PAC in 1960, the passing of the so-called Political Interference Act of 1968, the torture and murder of political prisoners in detention, the banning of 17 organizations in October 1977, the brutal murder of Steve Biko, formal repression and unofficial death squads were all components of a diabolical system and strategy of the repression, whose aim was to crush the real alternative to racial oppression. I feel particularly honored because Comrade Chris Hani, in many respects, embodied the finest traditions of the Revolutionary Alliance, which brings together the African National Congress, South African Communist Party, and the Congress of South African Trade Union. Courage was one quality Comrade Chris Hani possessed in great abundance. If we emulate him in that alone, I'm certain we cannot fail in whatever task we are faced with. Chris Hani was murdered before he could sever the freedom he had fought for so hard for all his adult life, but even in his death, served to spare on the realization of the goals he had dedicated his life to. The strategic importance of the ruling alliance at this moment cannot be overemphasized. The sentiments we all share about the longevity aside, the historic mission its components accepted make it an indispensable organizational tool for the pursuance of a progressive national agenda. A famous quote by Ernesto Che Guevara states that, and I quote, "The true revolutionary is guided by great feelings of love." Leaders like Chris Hani were moved to act by their hearts as well by reason. The decision to join the liberation struggle was one of the reason a conscious rejection of colonialism
and apartheid oppression. But Comrade Chris showed us to fight all the intolerances. Racism is still with us here, and we need to continue the fight. If we are going to observe his legacy, we need to continue on that path. As has been said, that the governing party has stated the multi-pronged approach to the fight against racism, that we should continue mobilizing our society at all times to be intolerant of racism wherever and whenever it rears its ugly head. But two, we should endeavor to educate, to de-educate those who are wrongly educated and think racism is something which should be practiced, but educate them in the new ethos. But the third part is the part of legislation and the process of legislating racism and criminalizing it is on course. Not only racism, but sexism as well in our country. The women abuse we see every day, and his concern with gender issues can also be seen in his reaction to remind generations to come that these leaders did not fight, or their fight was not in vain. As we speak, we gave our colleagues a chance, especially at Arts and Culture in Free State, on the house of Ma Winnie Mandela in Brantford. We decided to come to the party working with the province of Free State as national to ensure that that house is kept as a national heritage house. The process is on. It's not only the house, the whole city. We're in the process to change it from Brantford to Winnie Mandela City. It is going to be a precinct which will involve a lot of things, amongst others, a place for local economic development. We are here, Ekhuruleni, as we said, but we are also at an advanced stage in ensuring that the precinct of Solomon Mahlangu is also following the same route. As we speak, this is the second week interacting with the people of Tshwane as a whole, just to hear if there is anybody who has an objection of the house of Ma Martha and the family of Mahlangu declared as one of the heritage house. Within 60 days, we'll be in a position to have that house declared. We want to see it also ensuring that people are busy in economic activity, like you are seeing in Vilagazi Street, as the chairperson of the NYDA, Sfiso Mtsweni, asked us to do. We are hard at work as government to ensure that people do not forget where we come from. As we speak today, we have a full museum for Steve Biko in Ginsberg, in his home, where young people are trained, where people are educated about the life of Steve Biko. And his graveyard as well, having been declared as one such heritage site. We are in the process of memorializing of Professor Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe in Graaff-Reinet. This year marks 200 years of the Battle of Ekhuruleni, the place which was known as Grahamstown. We felt we needed to change that house from that city from Grahamstown, because many South Africans should know that Colonel John Graham was one of the most brutal human beings who ever lived on planet Earth. He killed AmaXhosa in that part of the country like flies when they were resisting for their land. He butchered people, women, children, and men. And we felt we cannot have in the public space such a murderer, such a killer being displayed in the public space. That is why one of the leaders of the fight of the Battle of Ekhuruleni, Makhanda Ganxele, who landed because of the white colonizers, who landed in Robben Island in 1919, we decided together with the people of that city to rename that city. It's no longer Grahamstown officially, it is Makhanda since October last year. The process is on. The process is on. What we are saying is that we need to follow the footsteps of what Lindiwe has said here, that over and above statements, we need to do something practical in remembering who we are and where we come from. And because this is our identity, this is our heritage. We are connecting South Africa and Mozambique through Imbuzini Memorial Site and Matola Site. And that process is on, which we continue to ensure that it further educates our people. The house in Zambia of the ANC and the house of the former President O.R. Tambo itself forms part of this resistance and liberation heritage route. 2 years ago, we renovated that house. We are engaging with Angola to ensure that Quito Kwana Valley as a site becomes one such Mecca site for all of us in SADC region, because it was through Quito Kwana Valley that most people of this region were liberated and fled. The massacres which happened in Gaborone and Lesotho, again there, we are at an advanced stage to ensure that those are memorialized. We thought that it is important to share with the public that the ANC government doesn't only talk, it walks the talk, because we would have only ourselves to blame if we do not heed the call of ensuring that the heritage landscape in our country reflects the new ethos, the new people, the new person in South Africa. And in that way, we'll see social progress, because our transformation is both tangible and intangible. Thank you very much for your attention.
Sibonga kakhulu mhlonishwa uMinister Nathi Mthethwa. Stella Chief Whip Masinyana, Bongela Bantu, Sizo